Yeah, hi, guys. I haven't been with you for quite some time because I've been trying to deal with, my YouTube channel to make them professional. But I lost myself. I don't know how many times did I try, and it didn't work at all. Now I am here once again after a long time. Just cut my hair. I love it how it looks. Makes me feel very cool and young and fresh. Yeah. So today I am, as I don't know if we are all confused, but there's a sense of confusion in this environment we call Earth of ours, because there's so many things that are taking place, and you try to stay cool, you try to stay calm, you try to create home wherever you are, especially we who are not in the continent Africa, because that's where we are born. And at this moment it feels like, as outside as we are. I was doing garden today and I wear my beautiful jacket, so don't mind me. Still busy doing the garden. Yes. So today the subject is, how do you feel as an African in these issues that are taking place at this moment in the world? You know, and this is where really I'm gonna say it as it is, because I myself, I know that I'm very terrified. I'm terrified by, I don't know where the truth is. I don't know how I can become a part of this. The only thing that I know that I can do at this moment is to hide myself from so-called the word corona, which I don't know what it means to me as an African. I don't know if I go to the hospital, I would get the services that are required. I don't know. So there's lots of things that you see out there that makes you very scared, and you feel kind of isolated as an African. I don't know. I don't know if I'm right, you guys, to be saying these things, but this is how I feel. So my question is, as the world is going through these things, this bizarre moments of our lives that we never have thought that we'll experience something like this. 2020, when it began, we all had our dreams, and especially we who just, and suddenly you thought to yourself, let me get out of Brexit so I can rebuild myself again. And suddenly, from nowhere, there comes this coronavirus. And as you're still watching this coronavirus starting in China, and so many stories around it, that it started with virus, no, with animals, that the Chinese, we saw different pictures of the Chinese eating really horrifying animals, which it's their story. We might call it horrifying, but they don't die from it. So that's their cuisine, that's their delicacy. They've been eating it, I think, as long as the Chinese shall live, and really going on with our businesses, of course, knowing that we deal with matters, issues of racism on a daily life in our own ways, and people don't understand the depths of how racism affects us as we navigate this through this planet. And this racism is a very underlined issues that uh, we have done our level best to kind of understand it and to deal with it and to make it a part of our makeup on a daily, because people who are doing this, they are not aware. For them it's the norm, but for us it's being attacked, and it's, there are many things. There are so small ways that you can be affected as a black person, and it hurts you, but then you have learned to create a strong muscles around it, whereby you deal with it, and dealing with it, it's not effect of, it does not affect you, you get affected by it. So this is something that has become the norm to us, and we know it, that it will happen, and we know it. When we talk about it, we are looked as if we are the ones who are complaining, we are looked as if we are angry, we are looked as if we are aggressive, we are looked as, but there's lots of underlying aggression that we go through, and that is okay, we can deal with it. But now, what makes me so frustrated at this moment is that, now while we are still looking at this Chinese problem that occurred in China, and suddenly it affected the rest of the world. And suddenly, in a twist of the eye, you hear now people saying, African people, you get to know where you're at. And you hear people, scientists appearing on TV saying that they're going to test vaccinations to the Africans. While you're still watching that, then you suddenly see the Chinese really harassing black people like crazy, and now you have nowhere to run, and you ask yourself, if you are ill at this present moment, and probably you feel like you are not okay, probably you've got anxiety, probably because of everyone is going through so much stress and fears, and not knowing what tomorrow brings. And then you realize that actually you are also targeted because of the race of where you come from. And I don't know if it's news, really. I don't know if it's the news that it's spread out there, or is it this reality? So my question is, how, where, how do you deal with this as an African, especially far away from home? Who do you trust? In the past weeks, really struggle in breathing, but throughout the day I'll be fine every night. And I even had to leave my bedroom and sleep in different parts of the house, and find myself struggling with this air. And finally, for days now, I moved up on the upper level of the house, which is really, really high, and there I could sleep. But somebody said to me, why don't you go to the doctor? And the first thing that came in my mind was like, oh my God, I don't know. I don't know if I can just go to the doctor. I don't know. Or will I be put aside? And you also have this thing that they say that they find themselves where they have to choose who lives and who dies. So there's so many things that makes you feel vulnerable. There's so many things that makes you feel alone. There's so many things that makes you feel isolated in a way, because you don't know. You really don't know. And there's always a lot of nonsense thrown on us. Even though the story of this coronavirus, it's the world issue. It affects every human. But then when you look at the news, I don't know if we should watch the news. I don't know if the media tells the truth. I don't know. Somehow you have no clue. But you know for the fact, through history, we have always been vulnerable in terms of being attacked by the madness of society. And so what do you do at this moment? Where do we have organizations of where we can call, where it's really, really basically looking after the Black people? And I'm not making it a race, but I'm making it, I can imagine how many of us at this moment are terrified. I was speaking to a friend of mine from the United Kingdom the other day, and he was saying to me, Carol, if you go to the hospital as a Black person and you are 50 years old, and you go in there healthy, you come out sick, or you don't come out at all. So these are the subjects that I'm hearing all the time. So it feels as if we are saying that the health industry would never put our life first. We will always be the last. Is that true, guys? These are the questions that I have, because I do not go to doctors, and this has always been me. I'm very afraid of doctors, because I remember when I first came to the country I'm at this moment, it was the first time for me to go to doctors. I went to a gynecologist, and I went for what do you call this? I had fibroids, and the way I was treated, it was the most horrifying way of being treated as a person. And I thought maybe this is how hospitals treat people. But I remember at that moment thinking to myself, I do not like the system. It's very inhuman. It's very invasive. It does not look at you as a soul. It looks at you as you are. They're looking at you from the point of their books, what they read and how they read it. That's how they have to address you as. So now having, and of course, there's going to be a moment where people, they're going to have to leave their houses, where we're going to go again and meet one another again. How is it going to be? And how much, as Black people, do you see yourself being a part of this new game that is created, that we need to be tested before we become? So I've got so many questions. And these questions are for you, Black brothers and sisters. Where are you in your mind? Are you feeling safe? Do you feel that you would be treated fairly, or do you feel? How do you feel? These are my questions. I have questions. My questions are: I feel that I need an organization in the world that is designed for me, that I can go in and I can get safety and I can get answers and I can get, and it has nothing to do with me isolating myself in this island world where it's an island of the Blackness only. But through the things I hear, through the treatments of the people like me are dealing with in this present moment, where it's the most vulnerable times in our lives as human race, and you see Black people sleeping on the streets, and people talking about it as if they're just animals. They can go to, test the vaccine because of Black people don't question, Black people don't. So it's, I'm confused, isolated, of course, alone. Like at this present moment, I try to find groups of Black people in Belgium where I'm at. Very, very far to find. And you always feel like, oh God, I wish I was in my continent at this present moment, because it is really difficult. It's difficult to be far away from home and not be close to home. Because of course, someone might ask me, why don't you go to the embassy? Yes, I've been to embassies, but these embassies are very politically based. There's no clearly support unless if you're a part of the political state of mind or state of thinking. Now, what if you're a spiritual being just like I am, and just you being looked after just for you being you, and where you can go get answers without feeling any fear or any rejections whatsoever, or any status, and put into a certain a space that you Black, and somehow feeling as if being Black, it's actually a curse, where you feel like, okay, as a Black person, where do I go in this present moment of this coronavirus thing and get real answers? Someone who can look at me in my eyes and say, Carol, this is how it is, sweetie, and this is how it's gonna feel. And when I say Carol, I'm not saying only me. I'm saying Black nations, because everybody has, like, for example, where I live at this moment, yes, I'm surrounded with my European friends. They've got answers from their European people, friends. They've got answers that are so clearly, and they feel holy and they feel comfortable because they get stories from one another. Now, on our hands, where do we get stories from one another? And then we can get out and outsource more information from outside world. But first we get the information from collected species, which is the Black nations, because we might try to blend in, we might try to and this is where momentums of understanding begins now, and begins now going forward. The world separates itself in communities. And in these communities, people feel safe because, firstly, they are surrounded with their like minded people. They are with their like cultural people. They are with the people when they look at them, they see themselves in them. And then they get information and they are very, very themselves. Now, when it comes to us, often we get information outside, or if we get it from our own people, there's not that sense of caring and that sense of warmth, that sense of don't worry, there are places put for you guys wherever you go in the world. The government can say, can know its citizens who are outside of the continent and say, these are the citizens of South Africa. Now, citizens of South Africa, wherever you are in the world, we've got information for you where you can go and get the right information, because we are given information on our internet. You only find the information when you go through the media and try to find out how to deal with this. We are locked down. We don't know what does that mean. We don't know. We don't know when we come out of this what's going to happen. Financially, it's already a massive challenge as an African, and we know this for the fact. You might be the most intelligent person on the planet. You have to work 10 times harder for you to get a space, just to get a chair of you being listened upon. Yes, some of us, we're strong, we can do that. I'm one of those people who are strong. Challenging times I've ever experienced since I was born. And I know this, I can never do it only with the outside world. I need my world. I need to hear what people like me are thinking. What people like me, what's their plan? People like me, what are you experiencing today? When you hear now suddenly that the Chinese are doing what they do to us, when you hear that the numbers of people who are dying in the United States are Black people, when you hear people saying that the Africans, they have to do the vaccine, otherwise Africa is going to be hit harder than any part of the world. And you're thinking, I am an African. If this thing is so scary at this present moment, and there's still words that it's going to be even more scarier to the African child, to the African daughter, to the African son, to the African father, to the African mother, and you ask yourself, where is the space where I can breathe and just really realize that I am a human? I am a human. And I need not to be afraid to go out there in the world to get answers, to live safe in this world. I need not to feel that if I go out there, I might be captured and tied up and forced to do things because of I am not human enough to the world that it's looking at me as an African. So these are the questions that I have. Yes, I had these questions before, but they were at the back of my mind because I had taken these questions as my makeup of me being a Black child, me being a Black woman, and saying to myself that I can deal with them. Whatever that they throw at me, I can throw it out. What it scars me inside of me, okay, whatever that is going around in the world, yes, I speak people's language born with, and I feel more comfortable in doing deals of my survival in a foreign way than my own, because that only then I can be accepted in the world of societies of the world. Now, when things like Corona comes up and then it shakes the earth, what kind of makeup would you do to be able to survive this dilemma? As of course the rest of the world is struggling. I'm not saying that it's our story only. I'm saying that lots of people are affected. Don't get me wrong. And this is not me playing the victim card, but it's me being terrified by the the ideologies that people bring, the narratives that people brings. And yes, I see China, what China does. It's I can see it, I can touch it. I hear what America does. But how many of us, when you are alone and you can be grabbed? I saw a man on one of the videos recently, and that man didn't want to be. He went to the hospital because of he had a little bit of a headache, a little bit, and he wanted to be tested. But what they did then, they forced him. They injected this guy using a black man in there. He was only one black man, and there were so many different people from all different walks of life, and you could hear a man screaming like crazy. They were injecting these things on him. And so this is where I'm at, scared, in the most scariest moment of humankind. Thank God I'm well, but what if you're not well? What if you think you have corona? Where do you go? What is going on in you at this present moment? And me, I tell you what goes on. I go to no hands. I rather die. And what I'm doing, I'm staying safe. I don't go out. I don't wanna poison anyone. If I'm sick, those I'm staying with, they are healthy. But I say to myself, if I have to be sick, I would rather isolate myself and die instead of me being humiliated in the world where I know that I'm always at the tail. Is it fair to be at the tail in these times of corona? Is it fair to see people being treated the way they are at this present moment? So this is me. This is me saying that I have never felt lonely as I feel lonely at this moment. I've never felt confused as I'm feeling confused at this moment, because I don't know where this biggest problem is going. Because financially as well, we are cut. And how are we gonna come back? Where is the government? We need a government to speak to us. Today, the world is just around the corner. You can just go to Zoom, and the government can talk to us and teach us what to do for us to come out strong, whatever country we are. I miss what I miss. It's a Black community of strength, connection, supportiveness, and holding hands and saying, we are with you. As the world, as we are part of the world, we are also a community on our own. And these are the tools put in place, where if you are from Nigeria, this is where we have. You are in Italy, this is what you get. You are in Belgium, this is what you get. You are from America, Black American, this is what you get. A systematic where we can really understand that corona, it's not something to just look at and wait until we leave our homes and start roaming around the streets, because it will never be, as they're saying, the politicians, things will never be the same again. And we always know, when things are never be the same again, there's going to be a massive challenge ahead of us. So that's the question. My question is, how are you dealing with these issues that the world is facing today as an African? Share your views, share your fears, share your frustrations. Let us have a dialogue of what can we do to break the fears? What can we do to get a support? Just the support that it's necessary, needed for you at that moment, that will make you go home and say, I just got the answer that I needed. Even though it was 5 minutes answer, it gave me a sense of serenity and sense of calmness. And it made me feel like I'm a part of this big game we call life. So we can be able to deal with our issue of not losing ourselves. Because with this corona thing, mentally, we can be disturbed. I talk about it, I meditate about it. There's lots of questions. That's why I decided to do this. And I'm going to do this often just to share with you guys where I'm at in terms of the frustrations that I have around this thing we call coronavirus. So, how are you dealing with it? as an African. God bless. Carol Machibula here. One love.